All right, West Virginia fans, it's time. The West Virginia Arizona State preview. In tonight's episode, we're going to talk about West Virginia's upcoming game versus the Arizona State Sun Devils. A lot to talk about here. A very interesting matchup. Arizona State is coming off of a bye. West Virginia is on a heater right now, winning 2 games in a row and really looked good that last game out. So tonight we'll talk about the game on Saturday, some storylines that I'm looking forward to in this one, and just kind of give you guys my 2 cents on this game coming up for Saturday. Before we do that, if you're a West Virginia fan, please remember to like and subscribe to JerseyEER. I really appreciate all the support that we've been getting. The last few days, the subscribers have really rolled in, and our channel has really grown in a big way over the last few days. So I really appreciate all the new subscribers that we have and everyone that's been rocking with me so far these last few months. We started back in June, and it's really grown and it continues to grow. So I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the support that you guys give me on the regular. It really means a lot. So definitely thank you for that. And if you haven't done so yet, like and subscribe. We're really close to that 500 number. So definitely appreciate that. With that being said, let's get into tonight's episode. So let's take a look at the Big 12 standings coming into this one. As you can see, Texas Tech is the lead dog right now at 6-1. They had that convincing win over BYU over the past weekend. In my opinion, Texas Tech is the lead dog in this one. They are head and shoulders the best team at this point, and West Virginia will get a chance to take on them next week for a final exam, a final finale, if you say. So that one should definitely be interesting next week, but Texas Tech right now looking like the top dog. A very important game for Arizona State this weekend. They're 4-2 in the conference coming into this one. If you remember, last year they were picked last in the conference and turned it around and ended up winning the conference and really played well in that college football playoff. So they're 4-2 in this one. They are mathematically still in it. They would have to win out, and they would need some absolute chaos for them to get in. So West Virginia over the next 2 weeks can really play spoiler here and put a damper in people's offseason plans. And then you see where West Virginia is. They're 2-5 in the conference right now, and they are building momentum, and they're still alive for a bowl bid. They're 4-6 right now overall, and they're still fighting for that bowl bid for the end of the season. So either 2 things are going to happen. One thing's going to happen, right? Either Arizona State is going to get knocked out of Big 12 contention, or West Virginia is going to miss out on a bowl game. So there's actually a decent amount at stake for this one for both teams coming into the game on Saturday. Let's talk about how both teams got here. Let's start first with West Virginia. We know about West Virginia, right? They beat Robert Morris in the first game of the season, stubbed their toe against Ohio, beat Pitt in that thriller at home, which was probably one of the greatest wins in West Virginia in a long time. So that was great. Then Big 12 play started, and we struggled against Kansas. We struggled against Utah, BYU, UCF, and TCU. We didn't have a lead in any of those games. But the TCU game, there were some glimmers of hope. The team battled, and we took a lot of positives out of that game. That team used that momentum, and they got a big ranked win versus Houston the next week, 45-35. And then they beat Colorado 29-22. So things are rolling right now for West Virginia, and these next 2 games are important if they can keep that momentum going into next season, especially because now you played Colorado last week, but now you're going to go up in a level of competition these last 2 weeks. Both teams, Arizona State and Texas Tech, are very good football teams. So this is a chance to play some good schools and have a chance to get 2 more signature wins. They're out there for this team. And like I said, they have to win out to make a bowl game. But at least at this point, they're still fighting. They're still competing. And there's a lot of positive vibes around the program right now, which are all positive signs. Let's flip over to Arizona State. Arizona State had the win versus Northern Arizona week 1. And then week 2 went down to Starkville, which is a really tough place to play, and lost that game 24-20. That one was a little surprising to me. I saw some of the college football experts were picking Mississippi State, but based on what Arizona State had this year, I thought they were in line to repeat for the Big 12. And that one was kind of glaring. They beat Texas State. And then if you look at conference play, a lot of their wins have been very close, right? They 3-point win versus Baylor. That was a great game. TCU 3-point game. Got crushed by Utah. And then they beat Texas Tech, which was the biggest win in the conference probably of the year. But again, it was a close game, a 4-point game. They lose to Houston, who West Virginia beat the week after, and then they had a close one versus Iowa State. So their margin for error in games in the wins are very, very close games. So keep an eye on that on Saturday. Can West Virginia do enough to keep this close and have a fighting chance going into the fourth quarter? I think that's something to look at here because Arizona State has been in these dogfights over the last few weeks. And the other thing to talk about in this game is Arizona State is coming off of a bye. West Virginia has played like 4 or 5 games in a row and they have to travel on the road where Arizona State's going to be well rested. How does that affect both teams? Arizona State last week took the whole week off. It seemed like their coaching staff was gone and they didn't even show up to the building. The players took the entire week off. Is there going to be a lingering effect to that? We're going to talk about that tonight on this show. Let me know what you guys think about that going into this one. All right, let's talk about the tail of the tape and what's going on in this one. So 1:00 kick Eastern time, which is weird. So Arizona State right now is 2 hours behind us. I don't think they partake in the daylight savings, so they're 2 hours behind us. So it's going to be an 11 a.m. kick there. I got to think that's an advantage for West Virginia. Getting up early and just getting this one out on the road. We saw what happened versus Houston. That was an early kick, and I thought that benefited West Virginia. Can they have a similar benefit in this one? We'll have to see on Saturday. This game is going to be on TNT, HBO Max, and True TV. So whatever you have, you can watch it on there. I've raved about TNT's broadcasting a lot over the past few weeks because I think it's very, very strong, and a lot of people have agreed with me. So excited to watch the Mountaineers there. And then Arizona State is an 11.5-point favorite. So even though West Virginia has looked good the last few weeks, a lot of people are expecting Arizona State to win this game. So we'll have to see what happens there. I know West Virginia has done pretty decently as of late against the spreads, but that's what you're looking at on Saturday at Arizona State for West Virginia. All right, let's talk about the last 2 times that these teams met. So we're tied in the series 1-1, and we lost in 1979, 42-7. I was not around for that one, so can't speak much on that one. But I was around for the 2015 game. That was a neutral site bowl game, the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl, where West Virginia won a thriller 43-42. That game was absolutely wild. I actually want to show highlights and go down memory road for that one for all you West Virginia fans because it does bring back good memories. It was one of the bowl wins that Dana Holgorsen had, and he actually didn't have many as his time as a West Virginia guy. So let's go down memory lane and look at that game real quick. We'll watch like a minute highlights and talk about that. The last time that West Virginia played Arizona State. All right, so here you have a pass to Karan White. Skylar Howard was the quarterback, and we're going to talk about his stats. Josh Lambert makes back-to-back kicks on this highlight. A nice throw here. Watch this. The Kale Shorts should have been intercepted. The Kale Shorts comes in for the nice grab here. And then again, Josh Lambert, probably my favorite West Virginia kicker besides like Pat McAfee. Again, Skylar's letting it rip here. This goes to Jordan Thompson, number 10. If you guys remember Jordan Thompson, a little short receiver we had. And then this one is to Shelton Gibson, man. Shelton Gibson really had the ability to hit the home run for West Virginia. Absolutely loved him as a West Virginia Mountaineer. And then again, one of the more underrated Mountaineers, Da'Keel Shorts, makes a nice touchdown here for West Virginia. Skylar goes back in the air, and that's Gary Jennings there. So a nice play from Skylar to Gary Jennings. This was probably Skylar Howard's like best game as a West Virginia Mountaineer. And I think that's Da'Keel Shorts again right there. And then a nice run here by Wendell Smallwood, who had a nice little NFL career. And then here I think he goes to, David Sills wearing the number 15 before he transferred out and then came back to the program. And then to end the game off, West Virginia wins it here on a 4th down breakup for a wild one, 43-42 in the desert. Again, Dana Holgorsen didn't win many bowls, but that was one that he won. So if you remember that game, definitely let me know in the comments what you remember about that game. Pretty cool stuff going back down memory lane there. So West Virginia took the last one here. All right, and let's look at the stats from that game real quick because they're absolutely wild. Skylar Howard, 532 yards and 5 touchdowns. Tell you what, man, Skylar Howard gets better with time. You know, when we look back on him, I know he wasn't appreciated when we had him, but the fact that he put up 532 yards in a bowl game was super impressive. And the reason we didn't appreciate him as much was because we had Will Grier after him. And that's tough because Will Grier was also on campus, because on those days, transfer portal quarterbacks, unless they were grad transfers, had to sit out a year. So Will Grier was like the backup scout team quarterback that year. So, we really appreciate Skylar Howard because he was a good Mountaineer. And like I said, if you look over time, especially with some of the quarterbacks we've brought in, he's probably better than most of them that we've seen in the last few years. Wendell Smallwood had 72 yards rushing that game. Russell Shell, a Pitt transfer, with 31 yards in that game. And then Skylar had 23, and Elijah Wellman. Look at these wide receiver stats, and I think that's like the most glaring thing is we haven't had a wide receiver room this stacked in a while. Shelton Gibson, 4 catches, 143 yards. He played in the NFL. Karan White, another great dynamic wide receiver, 4 catches, 116 yards. Da'Keil Shorts, 6 catches, 97 yards for 2 touchdowns. Jordan Thompson, 4 for 80. Gary Jennings, 2 for 68. David Sills, 1 for 15. I mean, that is an absolutely stacked wide receiver room for West Virginia. So, just kind of looking back at this game, going down memory lane this week, it is kind of cool to look back at this game and see the old names, watch the old highlights. I thought it was pretty fun before we kind of get into this one. All right, let's talk about some storylines going into this one. So the first storyline on the Arizona State side is quarterback Jeff Sims. He's definitely a guy that has played a long time in college football. You can see he's been around since 2020 with Georgia Tech and put up his best numbers with Georgia Tech. Had over 1,800 yards his freshman season there, followed that up with a 1,400-yard season, and then again another season with 1,100 yards in 2022. Decides to transfer to Nebraska, doesn't do much there, only saw the field limitedly, 262 yards passing there, 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions that year. So you can see from his splits, his career splits, 33 touchdowns to 30 interceptions. This guy will take risks with the ball. And West Virginia, who knows, maybe they can make some turnovers this week and take advantage of that. Where he is dangerous is rushing the ball. The last time out, he went absolutely off. He set an all-time ASU single-game quarterback rushing record on November 1st versus Iowa State with 228 rushing yards. So that's super impressive for a quarterback. He's going to be dangerous with his legs. West Virginia has faced a lot of dynamic quarterbacks with their legs this season. Going back to the Ohio game when we played Navarro, Jalen Daniels, Devin Dampier, the list goes on. So this isn't the first time that we've seen a dynamic quarterback rushing with his legs. So this is going to be a big storyline coming into this one. What can Jeff Sims do for his team entering Saturday's game? The other thing that we want to talk about is Jordan Tyson's health. So Jordan Tyson is probably the best wide receiver in the Big 12. He has a chance to be a first-round draft pick this year in the NFL. He's that talented. He's that good. If you look at the season this year, he has 57 catches with 628 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he's missed a few games with a hamstring. Those are incredible numbers. I mean, if you look at the production that he hasn't had a game under 6 catches, and he's even gone into the double digits a few times. This guy was an all-league receiver last year. He was one of the top 10 players I had on West Virginia's opposing player list coming into the season. This guy's the real deal. And it's going to be interesting to see what his health situation is like. I have not seen any reporting on his health situation yet. The injury report should be out tomorrow, and then each day it will get updated. Rich Rodriguez actually spoke to the media today at his press conference and talked about Jordan Tyson, what type of player he is. I want to highlight those comments now.
Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, I haven't seen a depth chart. Has anything come out yet?
No, I mean he's missed the last 2 with a hammy. So
yeah, I don't know. He's one of the best. He's not just one of the best receivers in the country. I've watched a lot of him. He's one of the best players in the country, period. I'm just tremendously amount of respect for who he is as a player, and you can see how he works, and just, he's one of the best I've seen in years.
There you go. So Rich Rodriguez has seen a lot of quality football players. I mean, he's been to pretty much every power conference, and I don't take those words lightly from Rich Rodriguez. I absolutely think he means that when he says that. If he can play, it is a little concerning. West Virginia, over the last few games, even though they've won, have had a tough time containing the other team's number one wide receivers. A couple weeks in a row, guys have had 100 yards against us because of good quarterback play and good athleticism in the receiving position. So our guys have been in position, but they just haven't been able sometimes to knock the ball down. Keep an eye on this. This could be a huge update coming into this game if this guy is available or not. So Jordan Tyson's health is definitely important. Another information that came out this week is Xavier Alford is out for the season. He was the 2024 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year finalist. So this guy came over from USC. He's been riddled with injuries his career, but he has a lot of talent, and Arizona State took a shot on him, and that shot took off last season. Hit the injury bug hard, though, this season. Hasn't played since September 6th in that Mississippi State loss. Last season, he played in 14 games, had 85 tackles, 7 passes defended, and 2 interceptions, and he was all Big 12 first team. So really tough break to hear that this guy is out for the season. Again, he's another one of those guys that I could see playing on Sundays in the NFL. He's going to have some choices at the end of the season. So Xavier Alford out for the season. You won't see him in this one on Saturday. And then they're going to get a few guys back coming into this one. Prince Dorba is going to be set to come back. It was announced Monday. He has 15 total tackles this year, 4 sacks and 1 forced fumble. So 4 sacks is impressive from him. He's an edge rusher, so he's going to try to make his presence known against an offensive line that has struggled. And then Tate Romney is a linebacker that has 12 tackles this year. He hasn't played in a few weeks. He's set to return as well versus West Virginia into this one. All right, let's talk about some West Virginia storylines coming into this one. So I think one of the biggest things that we have to talk about is West Virginia starting fast. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we were able to win our last 2 games. As I mentioned before, going into the Houston game, we didn't have a lead since the Pitt game. West Virginia comes out with a 14-0 lead versus Houston, and it ends up being 14-7 after the first quarter. Houston punches back and makes it 14-14, but West Virginia never panics when Houston punches back. I think it allowed West Virginia to settle into that game on a road environment and win that game. So that was important. And then you look back to last week's game, and West Virginia gets the block punt for a safety. Then they get the ball and the possession, and they turn that safety into a touchdown. So then you blink, and it's 9-0. And again, West Virginia at that point has the lead. They had the lead for the remainder of the game, and they could just kind of relax into the game and play their ball. When West Virginia is down early in games, it's not as pretty, right? We've seen what happens when they go get down early versus Kansas and Utah and UCF. It's really hard for this team to sustain offense when they're playing from behind. So if West Virginia wants to win this one on Saturday, they need to start fast on Saturday and get it going again. If they do that in a road environment against a team that hasn't played in a week on an early kickoff, I think that we have a decent shot at this one. So a fast start on Saturday will be important for West Virginia if they have a shot at winning this game. All right, another thing that came out today from the press conference was more touches for Curtis Jones. So Curtis Jones is a bandit, and he played running back in high school in the state of West Virginia. He made noise last week at camp. They said that he's been getting some reps at running back, and he's been doing that for about 2 weeks. The first week didn't feel comfortable enough yet to get some reps in the game. Last week, they let him go, and he scored 2 touchdowns. So they said they're going to use him more, especially because Dior Hubbard sounds like he's a little banged up, so they're going to rely on this guy a little bit more. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they can do with Curtis Jones moving forward. Coop says, what up? Coop, what up, man? I appreciate you. And the comments, it's good to hear from you. Were you at the women's game tonight? I'm sure you were. I know you have like season tickets to like every single thing. So appreciate you, Coop. If anyone else is in here and wants to comment, please do. I really appreciate all the comments. But back to this, Rich Rodriguez, and we're going to talk about this, talked about on his press conference today, having more two-way players play both ways, right? And having guys that are competitive in high school and can do it in high school, they also have a chance to do that at college, and they're going to recruit like that. And we've seen success with this. You go back to Travis Hunter last year and look at the Utah team this year, Snowden and Landon Barton and the cornerback kid. They had like 3 guys that played both sides of the ball. West Virginia might have to do this, right? Especially if we're going to have new recruits coming in. I think that's a selling pitch to what I heard is Matt Sig is having him possibly play both sides of the ball. So I'm kind of all for this. We've seen it with Rodney Gallagher before. We're seeing it with Curtis Jones. Let me know in the comments. I want to do a fun exercise. Name a player that played one side of the ball at West Virginia that you would have liked to see at a different position. What could have been fun? Like, I think for me, like, I don't know, seeing Bruce Irvin at tight end would have been kind of fun. So as we do this tonight, if you can think of a player that played one side of the ball, name a position you would have liked to see them if they switched other sides of the ball. I think that's a fun conversation. Eric Flowers says, present. Eric, what's up, man? I appreciate you. You've been a fan for a long time. You've been commenting, so I really appreciate the support. Coop said he was at the Coach Hodge show tonight at Kegler's. Yeah, man, that's awesome. They look good against Lehigh on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to seeing them versus Pitt. I think that's going to answer a lot of questions coming up. All right, let's get back into some other news that made some noise. Let's talk about this fullback situation. The return of the fullback. This made me smile as a kid. My first position I played was fullback. Love being the lead blocker, love getting carries. And I think there's no other hard edge position. That's the hardest edge position there is. So I'm going to give you a quote from Rich Rodriguez's show last night. We're going to talk about this. It says, we're going to start looking at that with all of our guys, two-way players. I want a fullback, believe it or not. I want an Owen Schmidt type of fullback, and I think I want two of them. A lot of times you'll find a linebacker or defensive lineman that plays both fullback in that. We need one. They could play the role of short yardage and that kind of stuff. There are guys that we're recruiting that can play fullback and linebacker or wide receiver or D-back. I mean, why not? Let's find what we can. You know, Rich Rodriguez has kind of changed his tune on this one because I know someone asked him earlier in the season about Rodney Gallagher playing defense again, and he said if he's playing defense, they feel it as a coaching staff or that they have really bad depth. He's changed his tone now. Maybe he saw what happened with Utah and saw the success that they were having, and now seeing what the depth situation is like with injuries. So I'm all for these two things, two-way players and then the return of the fullback. I think that's awesome. I think West Virginia, we have to be a little bit different, and to find an elite fullback would be awesome. Coop said the player that he would have liked to see play two ways is Beanie Bishop of wide receivers. So Beanie Bishop was very dynamic. If you remember in that UNC game, it was the first time in college he returned it for a punt, and he returned it for like 97 yards for a touchdown. And anytime Beanie Bishop got the ball in his hands, he was really special with the ball in his hands. I would have liked to see like Rasul Douglas too play offense. I thought Rasul Douglas had a lot of speed and get up to him too. Eric Flowers said, I've been saying for weeks on many channels, we need to go through our DNs to get someone to run the ball. There you go. You know, sometimes as fans, we say things that make sense to us, but you're like, that would never happen. But then you see it on TV and it's like a proud moment for you. So Eric, I'm sure you're like super pumped about that because when you call something like that, that's hard to see and it happens. That's definitely cool. Coop said, or Cam Vaughn at safety or corner. Yeah, man, Cam Vaughn, he 50-50 balls with him. He goes and gets them. He's really athletic, so that'd be fun to see. He said Lee Koba at fullback would be insane. Yeah, Lee Koba was a dog, man. I really liked Lee, even though he was here for a short time. Again, keep the comments rolling in and let me know what player you would have liked to see switch sides of the ball and how do you think they would have done on the other side of the ball. Again, it's a cool exercise. He said maybe we could have Garrett Green at wide receiver. Yeah, that's one that we've talked about a bunch in the offseason. I mean, it worked in the preseason for Tampa Bay, and it showed what he could do. I think it's such an unfortunate thing that we didn't get a chance to see Garrett Green in this Rich Rodriguez offense. I mean, could you imagine if you had Garrett Green in this offense, an offense that was literally made for him? It's too bad we just missed that. But, yeah, Garrett Green at wide receiver could have been pretty fun. I mean, we saw what Tavon Austin did when they switched him from receiver to running back. I think they should have just kept him at running back the rest of the season after that. I mean, he was that dynamic. Yeah, definitely keep the comments rolling in, though. This is fun. So Rich Rodriguez actually talked about that, these things also on his press conference today. Want to play that film from Rich Rodriguez's press conference today.
A whole lot of thought into that, but, you know, with Curtis, we're going to have to play. We're going to have to give him more reps. You know, Dior is banged up. You know, he battled through it last weekend. You know, we got 2 tough games left, so we got to continue to get Curtis more and more reps. And going forward, to your point, we talked about in recruiting, a lot of these guys we recruit play both ways in high school. And if they're good enough to play both ways in high school and can transition that to do a little bit of that in college, we're going to play them both ways. You know, it won't be a lot, but you're going to see more and more, I think, teams do that. We are. You know, a guy could be a fullback and a defensive end or a wide out and a DB or something. And we're looking at that as we speak with some of the recruits that we have.
All right, so there you go, man. Rich Rodriguez said it himself. So it's going to be a recruiting pitch to some of these guys. Hey, do you want to be like Travis Hunter? I mean, look how Travis Hunter was able to market himself. Now, Travis Hunter was an amazing talent, but I think people were blown away with him because he could play two sides of the ball. So that could be a recruiting pitch as well. Coop said, I'm going to crash out if they don't add Scotty to college football 25. I know, I would, if he gets added to the game, I'd almost like want to restart my dynasties over because he's only a freshman and just run it back again with Scotty Fox as the quarterback. I think that'd be fun. That's a good point, Coop. He said, yes, I agree. He would have been awesome. Scotty Fox is the freshman version of Garrett Green with some height and weight. Yeah, I got to be honest. I think Scotty Fox's ceiling is higher than Garrett Green's based on the arm throwing ability and just everything I've seen. Garrett Green was okay as a freshman, but I don't think he was this good. So Scotty Fox, he still has 2 more games left, and it'll be interesting to see what West Virginia does the rest of the season with him and for next season and what the plan is with the portal quarterback. But he's definitely someone they have to keep on the roster because the future is bright with him. So again, appreciate the comments, guys. All right, let's talk about some recruiting before we get off of here. So welcome to the squad. We had 2 commitments come in this week. Both were flipped from other schools. Mekhi Boone, former Miami, Ohio commit from St. Ed's High School in Ohio. St. Ed's, by the way, great wrestling program, St. Ed's. They used to have a huge rivalry with Blair Academy up here in New Jersey. So St. Ed's is a powerhouse in a lot of sports. I'm very familiar with that high school. 6 foot, 172 pound, 3-star recruit, 24/7. I think his only Power 5 offer was West Virginia. And, sometimes with West Virginia, we have to do that, right? Sometimes we have to take chances on kids because kids remember who was first. They remember who contacted them first, and they remember who the first Power 4 was. So if you add a kid like this, are you going to go to a MAC school or going to go to West Virginia? So West Virginia got on him after he committed to Miami, Ohio. He came for a visit this weekend, commits, and I'm all for it. Sometimes we have to do this at West Virginia. We have to get creative with our recruiting strategies, and sometimes you have to offer some players and take a chance, and it sounds like they're going to take a chance on Mekhi Boone. This may pay off for West Virginia. And then the other one that we got last night is Aiden Woods, former UNC commit from a high school in Virginia, 6'6", 255 pounds, and a 3-star recruit. I believe he plays tight end. So UNC, man, we've been flipping UNC kids like crazy recently. It seems like, right? I mean, we have Ryan Ward on the team, Ashton Woods, Christian Hamilton, and now this kid. That's like 4 guys that we've flipped from UNC. So kind of using that Bill Belichick up in the air coaching style to our advantage. And that's what West Virginia is going to do. And that's what we're going to talk about in these next few slides. I can't remember the last time that a recruiting class went this late where it could flip on its head. It seems like in years past, the recruiting was kind of done in July, especially with Neil Brown's staff. It seems like after July, we were kind of done. Maybe we had 1 or 2 surprises or flips on signing day. But right now, man, we're going to mention like 7 or 8 players that are very interested in West Virginia that would be huge additions to the class. So with all the craziness with college football and all the coaching changes, that's probably part of the reason for it. But Rich Rodriguez is really trying to hit some home runs in this class, and we're going to talk about that next. All right, so let's talk about this. The things that are heating up around the West Virginia and the coach and the recruiting. So Terry Wiggins, a 4-star PSU commit at linebacker, was on campus for the West Virginia game this weekend. Rich Rodriguez talked about the importance today of having packed crowds because recruits see this. And I'm really happy that this kid was at the Colorado game. And I mentioned this on my show this week. The fact that it was a 3-6 versus 3-6 team and it was packed like that, and it felt like a very important game in November was super impressive. So to get this kid on campus was a big deal. West Virginia's in the mix for this kid now, and he would be a huge get in this class to get a 4-star at that position. And then obviously we know about Kevin Brown. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know about the situation. We've seen this picture floating around social media, has the West Virginia gloves on. And apparently I was listening to Kazaz's show. He has another official visit he can take at Ohio State, but he can only take them on Saturdays. And his team keeps winning, so he can't take them. So everyone should be rooting for Harrisburg High School right now in the PIAA state playoffs, because if they keep winning, he can't do his official visit there. So everyone's going to be looking at Twitter and looking at social media over the next few weeks and seeing this kid actually commits, and then on signing day, if he actually signs, I know I'm excited like you guys. He has the West Virginia gloves on. His dad his dad played here. He's a legacy, but until he commits, until he signs, I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic. I really hope it gets done soon, but I'm gonna not get too excited yet until this gets done. But this would be an absolutely massive gain for us at a position of need, and I believe he would start right away next year for West Virginia. And then we have JD Hill. He has it's between us and Washington. It sounds like he has us in his top two. And then going back to Wiggins, it sounds like UNC and Colorado also have visits lined up for him. And then the Jordan Avinger kid is a 3-star. He was a former Arkansas decommitted back in October. It seems like UNC and West Virginia are down in that recruiting battle. So we've talked about the UNC West Virginia battles in recruiting lately. It seems like it's been more than ever where West Virginia and UNC is battling for kids. So that's going to be one to watch too for Avinger. Some other recruits to look out for over the next few weeks. Carnell Jackson Jr., he came out with this graphic today. He's from Auburn, Alabama. He's a 3-star, and it's between us and Kansas State, it looks like. I think he's making his commitment pretty soon within the next few days. So be on the lookout for here. Plays defensive tackle. Would be a nice piece to get for West Virginia in the class. DeMonte Tab is another one who was on campus this weekend from Alabama. He doesn't have any stars on 24/7 that I saw, but he does have offers from Baylor, Cincy, and Maryland. So he has been offered from a few Power 4 schools. So you never know with this kid. And like I said, the fact that other Power 4 schools are offering him, I would take him. And then the other one is Matt Sig, PSU commit. He's a 4-star, top 100 safety. And like we said, he's a Penn State commit. I know we're going to be battling Penn State, Notre Dame, Indiana, and Pittsburgh. It seems like Pittsburgh's making a big push to get him from everything I've seen online. So he has a visit with West Virginia later this month, so keep an eye on that. And that is all I got. So we did a half an hour live show tonight. Like I said, if you guys have any other comments, I'll stay on here for a minute or so before we get off. But he said, Terry Wiggins looks like Nate Wiggins on my Ravens. Who knows? Maybe you have to look up and see if they have any relation there. You never know. Football's a small circle. But like I said, guys, I really appreciate all the support over the last few weeks. Like I said, October was a very slow month, but November has really kicked up into gear, probably because the team is winning. And our subs are growing at a very good rate. We're really close to 500 subscribers. So if you can share it with people that don't know about JerseyEER, we're trying to grow this thing even more. I really appreciate you guys. I'll do another show after the Pitt game on Thursday night. Let's go Mountaineers. Have a great night. We'll talk to you guys next time.